I love interacting with my audience. I love interacting with you wonderful people. Let me tell you something, first of all, where I come from. I believe everybody, most Americans, most people in the world are good people. I think there are influences, externalities that are the things that really creates all the isms. My isms were created by how I was reared. How I was reared was created by how my parents were reared, etc., 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 and it goes on. Change is only made when it's intentional, when one decides that in order to have a better society, we actually make those changes within that then gets reflected without. I had a interesting conversation on my internet show, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and all these other places where it goes live. And there's one particular person who I don't think this person is a nice person. He's actually a supporter of the show. And he said, Egberto, if you look at everything through racial lens, then that's all you're going to see. Interestingly, I don't personally believe in race, but let me play this piece that I cut that I did from the show yesterday, because I think it's informative, and I think it is something that we need to get out there. And let me tell you how I know it's informative. My daughter listened as I was making the cut, and she said, "Dad, I like that part. A millennial told me she liked that part because it makes a difference." Check this out. We'll take it on the other side. When you view everything through a racial lens, all you see is race. Lee Grant, I promise you, people of color do not want to look at things through racial lens. Unfortunately, they are generally forced to do so. I am a guy that doesn't believe in race at all. But when I walk into the store, I see the eyes, I get the following. When I walk into certain churches, I see what occurs. So instead of saying that we need to stop looking at everything through racial lens, I'm going to ask you, Lee, you're a good guy. You're also a good supporter, brother Lee Grant. But I'm going to ask you to do something honestly. Lee Grant, because you're the one who made the statement, if you look at everything through race, then it is pervasive. I'm going to ask you the next time you are in an area that you are normally very comfortable in a white space and you see somebody different, whether Asian, black, or whatever, be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell me. Just be honest with yourself and tell me if you have a slight reaction beforehand. Because what people of color always see when they walk into white spaces is not necessarily racism, but an apprehension to who they are. And when we can honestly accept that to the point that we make, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I don't want to play like I'm some goody two-shoe or anything like that, because I'm not. And I always use my transformation from being a homophobe into one of the biggest gay rights supporters with a whole lot of gay friends. And let me tell you what I mean by that. There was a time in my life when if I saw two men kissing, holding hands, two women doing this, it actually had a material, even as I held back, it had a physical response on me. And that because of how the brain works and how I was cultured at home in Panama. I always tell people I have the 3 strikes: Black, Latino, and Caribbean. Very homophobic cultures. And I overcame that to the point now that it's not only mental, but it's also carnal. And it's important for us to get there. So what I tell a lot of my white brothers and sisters is something that is quite easy to understand. And that is, instead of telling people, when you hear black folk talk about, we're always talking about race, why don't you forget about it and somehow it's going to go away? Try to understand the space in which they live in and what they feel every time they go into the space and why they feel what they feel when they go into that space.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.